Welcome to our discussion on principles of economics once again. Today we are going to discuss about market structure. So, this is market structure that we are going to discuss today. Now, why this market structure is important? If you recall, in one of our previous sessions we said that market is a good way to organize economic activities. That means market decides what to produce, how much to produce, how to produce, who will buy those. All these things are decided in a market, and market uses the single most powerful instrument, price. Now the question is, how is this price determined? Now determination of price in a market actually depends on the structure of the market. When I say structure of the market, basically we denote three things. How many buyers and sellers are there in the market? How many buyers and sellers? And then secondly, what is the type of good? Okay. What is the type of good? Are they selling homogeneous goods or goods are differentiated, right? And thirdly is cost of production. Of course, in a way cost of production itself determines what is the market structure and all. So, these are the important things and that determine basically the market structure, and then market structure in turn will determine the price, equilibrium price and quantity that will prevail in that market. We also said that market maximizes social welfare, and when we said that market maximizes social welfare, if you recall, we said a particular type of market. Do you remember what was that type of market that maximizes social welfare? We were talking about a particular type of market which is called perfectly competitive market. That is what we are going to discuss today. Perfectly competitive market. Right? Market maximizes social welfare if it is perfectly competitive. That is why discussing perfectly competitive market is very important. So, let us see how the price, equilibrium price and quantity is determined in a perfectly competitive market. So, basically we will be talking about from a particular firm's point of view, and then we will come to the aggregate industry as a whole. Okay. How an individual firm decides about price and quantity if the firm is operating in a competitive market. Okay. So, we are assuming that the firm is behaving competitively. Now, when I say competitive market or perfectly competitive market, how it is determined? So, as I said, the first component of first element that is important about market structure is number of buyers and sellers. If the market is perfectly competitive, then we say that there are large number of buyers and sellers and buyers. So, that means if there are large number of buyers and sellers, what happens? Contribution of a single seller or contribution of a single buyer is negligible to the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So, contribution of single seller or single buyer is negligible. Right? That means no single buyer or seller cannot influence the market outcome. Okay? No single buyer or seller cannot influence the market outcome. No single buyer or seller cannot influence the market outcome. So, this is the first characteristics of a perfectly competitive market. Then second one is goods that are sold in the market, goods are homogeneous. Goods are homogeneous. So, that means sellers are selling identical products, there is no product differentiation, right. Then thirdly, there is free entry and exit. There is free entry and exit. Now, you might be thinking, why I am specifying that third characteristics? Entry and exit is up to the particular firm, right? If any firm wants to enter in a particular industry, the firm will enter, and if the business is not profitable, the firm may leave. So, why do I specifically mention about the third assumption? Free entry and exit is there always, all the times, for everyone. Why should I mention this assumption? Do you know the reason why specifically I need to mention that there is free entry and exit? That means entry and exit is not always free. See, actually this assumption is coming in a way from the first one. When I am saying that there is large number of buyers and sellers, let us talk about the seller's point of view. There are large number of sellers. So, obviously, if the number of sellers are very large, so that means a particular seller or a particular firm is supplying only a very small amount of the total output. Contribution of a single firm in the aggregate output or aggregate demand is negligible. That means the firms are very small in their size, and when the size is small, obviously you need small amount of investment. At the same time, if the size of the firm is small, then investment is small and you can easily leave the market also as and when you want. But think about a case where you need huge investment to enter into the market. Do you think all the firms easily can be able to enter into the market? Will there be free entry? No. First of all, you need to have that much money, that much capital for investment, so that only you can enter into the market. So, entry would be costly for you. At the same time, if you want to exit also, since you have already invested that much amount of capital, overnight you cannot leave the business and do something else, because you need to first sell your machinery, you need to first sell your plant, you need to sell your factory, you need to sell your inventories, so on and so forth. And getting a customer for all this is not easy. That is why if the number of firms are not high or not large, that means there is some kind of restriction in that market. Not everyone is allowed to enter, either due to huge investment required, or sometimes government may also say that you need to procure a license to enter in a particular industry. That way also entry can be restricted. And in those type of industries, since investment is also huge, leaving the market overnight is also not possible. You need to first find a customer who will buy all your plant, machinery, factory, inventories, everything, then only you can leave. That is the reason I said in a perfectly competitive market, since the number of sellers are extremely large, they are all very small firms. So, they make very small investment to enter, and when they decide to leave the market, since there is a negligible amount of investment made, they can easily leave the market without incurring any financial costs on them. That is why free entry and exit. So, these are the things known as perfectly competitive market. Now, what are the examples of perfectly competitive market? In reality, it is very hard to think about a market where number of sellers and buyers are extremely large. When I am saying extremely large, large means the number of firms it tends to infinite. Can you think about a market where infinite number of sellers are there? In reality, it is not possible all the times, but a closely related markets are there. Think about market for agricultural products. Okay? Market for agricultural products. So, agricultural sector, there are large number of farmers who are actually supplying the agricultural products. That is why closely related market is agricultural product, and agriculture is a sector where entry and exit is also almost free. You do not have to incur much cost to enter into that particular market. Secondly, stock market. So, these are some examples of perfectly competitive market to some extent, but please remember, exactly perfect competition is not a reality. Okay? It is hard to think about a market situation which is perfectly competitive. These are two closely related market structure which can be thought of competitive market. Now, let us think about price and quantity determination in a perfectly competitive market. Price and quantity determination. Now, if I ask you what is the objective of a firm? Now, objective of a firm, irrespective of whether the firm is operating in a competitive market or in some other markets, the objective is always same. What is the objective? Can you think of? The objective of a firm is always profit maximization. Okay? Profit maximization. And if you recall that profit maximization is achieved through one of our 10 principles that we have learned earlier. How does the firm maximize profit? Firm always apply that principle, rational people think at the margin. This is the principle. Rational people think at the margin. So, this is one principle that we have learned. So, that means while deciding about the optimum amount of output, the firm will think, if I produce one extra amount of output, what is the benefit? Obviously, the benefit is the marginal revenue. If one extra unit of output is produced, then what is the benefit? The extra output or the last unit of output will add something to your total revenue, and that is called marginal revenue. You can think of delta TR, total revenue, delta Q, that is the benefit, where TR equals to P into Q. Okay. Change in total revenue for a change in one unit of output. So, that is the marginal contribution of that output. And if you produce one extra unit of output, you must also incur some amount of cost, and that is known as marginal cost. Okay, marginal cost. So, that means when I am applying this principle, rational people think at the margin, obviously, as long as marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, firm should keep on producing, And equilibrium would be achieved when MR equals to MC is satisfied. So, this is the profit maximizing condition for a firm irrespective of the market structure, irrespective of market structure. Now, let us get the relationship with the price, okay, because firm will be always thinking about the price what is getting. So, MR equals to MC is the profit maximizing condition that is valid for each and every firm irrespective of market structure. Even mathematically also you can get this relationship. For example, let us say this is your profit function, which is P into Q, that means total revenue minus total cost. So, if you differentiate this with respect to Q, this is also a function of Q, and set it equals to 0, then you will get P minus, that means instead of, let us say this is I am writing, instead of PQ I am writing this is as TR only, total revenue minus total cost. Total revenue is also a function of output. So, this you will get if you differentiate what I showed, this is MR. So, this implies MR minus MC equals to 0, which implies MR equals to MC. So, that is why I said that MR equals to MC is the profit maximizing condition irrespective of the market structure. Now, let us see that when the market is competitive, what type of marginal revenue that the firm is facing. So, let us say this is, or let us say this is the Q, this is P, this is the firm's demand curve we are thinking about. Now, as I said that the firm has no control if it is operating in a perfectly competitive market, since the firm is supplying only a negligible quantity in relation to the total market demand or market supply. So, that means firm is acting as a price taker. What I am saying? Firm is a price taker. So, it observes the price what is prevailing in the market and then sell as much quantity as the firm wants. So, that means if you sell 10 units, if Q is 10, then let us say price is 6. If it is 11, then also 6. If it is 12, then also 6, because the firm has no control over the price. Whatever amount you sell, the price will always remain 6. So, that means the additional revenue what we are getting by selling extra unit, that is always the price. From 10 to 11, what is the additional price, additional revenue I am getting? 6. See, here it is 60, here it is 66, here it is 72, here it is 78, sorry. So, that means what is the difference every time? This is 6, right. This is again the difference between these two is 6, this is again 6. That is why I said if the market is perfectly competitive, then marginal revenue is always equals to the price, isn't it? The additional output what you sell, that will fetch you only the price amount. That is why price is considered as the marginal revenue in the perfectly competitive market. What about average revenue? Even that is also the price amount, right. Average revenue if you take, that is also same amount, because the price is going to be constant, right. That is why in the context of perfectly competitive market, we say that P equals to MR equals to AR. So, that means the demand curve that the firm is facing, please remember this is the firm demand curve, this is P equals to MR equals to AR, everything is same. Okay. This is the demand curve, this is also the demand curve. So, demand curve for a particular firm is P equals to MR equals to AR, that is the demand curve. Now, the question is, this line is parallel, because whatever quantity you sell, your price is not changing, same price. Let us say this is P bar. So, even if you sell Q1, the price is Q bar, even if you say Q2, the price is P bar, even at Q3 P bar. So, firm is taking this P bar as given and selling as much as they want. Now, the question is then, how long is this demand extended? Is the firm facing infinite amount of demand? Because I said you can sell any amount. What does that mean? Are you going to sell infinite amount? That means indirectly I am saying this demand curve is extending towards infinity. Is there infinity? That is the question. Can you think of? Firm is a price taker. So, firm takes this P bar as given. So, first question is, who is deciding about this P bar? So, who decides this P bar? That is one question. And if at all P bar is decided by someone, I said you can sell as many quantity as you want. Does that mean you are going to sell as an individual firm the infinite amount? The answer is actually no, because corresponding to this market demand and supply, there is a demand in the industry level. If you recall, in our previous discussion we said that there are two types of demand. One is called individual firms demand, and then there is something called industry demand. That means, if you take sum of Q D I running from 1 to n, if there are n number of firms, then only you will get the industry demand. So, industry demand is nothing but the sum of all the firms demand. So, I am facing a demand curve, you are facing a demand curve, the other firm is facing another demand curve. Okay. So, if you take sum of these, then that will make industry demand curve. See, firm is facing a demand which is horizontal to the x axis, but when you are talking about industry demand, remember industry demand curve is always downward sloping, because there is inverse relationship between price and quantity at the industry level. Okay. At the industry level, demand curve is always downward sloping. The law of demand we have studied earlier, that if price increases, quantity demand will fall. If quantity increases, price will fall. Inverse relationship between price and quantity, that is valid at the industry level, not valid at the firm level. So, at the industry level you have this demand curve, you have this supply curve. So, this is actually the Q star amount decided in the market. So, when I am saying is this demand curve approaching infinity? No, there is a limit, and this limit is actually decided at the industry level or the market level given by X star. Maximum you can sell X star amount, not infinite amount. Market is also giving you a price P bar. So, the price which the individual firm takes as given is decided at the market. Market forces, that means one of our previous sessions we discussed market forces means forces of demand and supply will determine the price. That price a single firm will take as given and then will supply as much as he or she can, but of course there is a limit. Okay? There is a limit decided at the industry level, which is Q star.